hitch. That is not the standard. It is not to find whether there was any hitch. In fact, since I started participating in these elections in 2013, before the Supreme Court, 10 years ago, the Supreme Court has always said there was a hitch. There was a hitch. But the standard of the law is, was there a hitch of such a substantial nature that it affected the outcome of the election? And in 4 of the cases I participated in, the answer was no. In one, the Supreme Court said, yes, this is not good. This is not a hitch. This has gone beyond a hitch. I didn't agree with them then, but I respected that opinion and I obeyed it. And as the Attorney of the Republic, I went back and started arranging for a new election, which we did hold thereafter. One of the problems we have, ladies and gentlemen, in these constitutional timelines that are locked up in the Constitution, it confirms what the philosopher said, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. When we wrote the Constitution here in Bomas, we thought that putting timelines in which by which the court must determine the dispute, we were making sure that the country would be stable, that a transition would be done quickly. We were wrong. It now turns out, in my experience, that this time is not enough. And this method that we use, this method that is by documents only, by affidavits only, and so on, is not enough. So that's one thing that if we were to reopen that process, that is one area that the experts would probably need to look at, the timelines. In fact, we almost ran into a constitutional crisis in 2017. We dodged a bullet by the sheer love of God, because Parliament had broken up, prorogued. Parliament had gone home. It couldn't make more law. It couldn't make law to guide us. And the judges had found the night before the election that election officers had been wrongly appointed. It took the Court of Appeal sitting at night to deal with that technical problem. Where the life of the nation is concerned, we don't want those near hits. We then went into an election where I think had we missed the timeline, there would have been no government, and that's the constitution we have. If the election is not, for example, if we do an election, the Electoral Commission declares a presidential winner, a petition is filed, members of the Supreme Court are kidnapped, we do not hear the petition and finalize it within the period provided, then we have no government. I think these are very dangerous propositions, and we want to have a more flexible system. And I know there are many experts who can help us deal with that. So that's all I wish to say about IEBC, about reopening the question. About boundaries delimitation, I want to start by saying that my own personal view, which is not a view shared by many of my countrymen, is that we have too many people in Parliament. We have too many constituencies, so that we should be reducing constituencies, not increasing. We have too many counties. We should reduce counties, not increase counties. They are costing us a lot of money, and quite a number of them are not viable. When we were in Bomas, the constitution we gave you, ladies and gentlemen of the Honorable August House of Parliament, I think we had given you 9 counties. 14, I'm corrected, 14. It was when the politicians went to Naivasha that they came to this compromise of let's go to 41. I think if we are to reopen this constitution, one of the issues we can usefully reopen is the reduction of counties. Bring more counties together and let them work together and mobilize resources together and share together. So I'm not a great fan of increasing counties or indeed of increasing constituencies. And this may bring me then to another issue which I was supposed to take later. This issue of the gender rule, we call it the gender rule, but essentially, really, it is the women empowerment rule. I struggled with it when I was the attorney of the Republic, and we came to grief. For as many bills as we worked on, we came to grief. And I want to be very, very honest with you. First, there is a feeling among many Kenyans that we have not done enough to justify this. Our social education around this has not been successful, and we need to do some more civic education around why empowering women has the effect of empowering the whole community in the long run, well, let's say in the medium term. What would be my solution about this? Of all the ones we have tried, I think only one can succeed, and that is to abolish the woman seat, to abolish the seat of the woman representative completely, and then to create 2 seats in every constituency, one for a woman and one for a man. In fact, we end up with 50% being women. We improve. We do better than the 30% that we already have. And that one is neat. It is achievable without much mathematics, arithmetics, and it is straightforward. That would be my proposal. There is an issue you put to me, honorable members, that is...
Sorry, Prof, sorry. You said 290 times 2. Yes. That's how many? 580?
Oh, you know, my original proposal is that we reduce the constituencies. So we would first reduce the constituencies, then have, to about 100 constituencies, then have 1 man, 1 woman in each of those 100 constituencies.
Give us 200.
Yes. Yes. And the office and status of a member of parliament will be restored. There is one issue, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, you asked me to talk about, and that is the issue of socio-economic rights, which is the issue of the cost of living. This is a chicken and egg problem that is, in my view, very, very hard to. We need the economy to function at a certain level in order to produce goods and services that allow us to distribute. It is the legendary Tom Mboya in the ideological debates of the 60s that he held with senior Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. And the grand old man, Jaramogi, was talking about distributing wealth. And Tom Mboya kept reminding him, we need to create the wealth first. That problem is alive today as it was in the 1960s. We need to create wealth in order to distribute it. And therefore, socio-economic rights are economic rights. Socio-economic rights are important fundamental rights in the Constitution, but we need to fund them. In order to respect them, we need to be able to fund them. So we need the economy to grow. We are in a chicken and egg position. We need the economy to grow in order for us to fund socio-economic rights. The economy is not growing, therefore we are not funding. So that is the problem. That is the problem. Because no matter which government is in control, our envelope, our financial envelope is the same. And as long as that envelope is not growing, we will not be able to give free meals in schools, which, as many of you know, that would be a big game changer, because our students sometimes perform very poorly because they haven't eaten. They just haven't had a good meal. They can't stay awake in the class, and so on. So if we could fund that, it would be a huge game changer. To fund it is a huge budgetary item. And I could go to many other important socio-economic concerns. So my suggestion is that we need to progressively enforce socio-economic rights, progressively, and in the communities that deserve them the most. We used to say that the majesty of French law is that it treats the king in his castle the same way it treats the beggar in the street. That cannot be a very good law, can it? We cannot treat everybody equally because not everybody is in the same circumstances. When we enforce socio-economic laws, we must start with the most vulnerable, so that the most vulnerable are attended to first, with the most basic needs, so that they can live a minimum dignity that is accorded to them. Now, let me say something about, I've talked about the two-thirds. This issue of defecting from political parties, this also is as old as our history, honorable members. In fact, the first thing that happened after independence, on the anniversary of independence and on the birth of the republic, is that people crossed floors. Kadu crossed the floor. Kadu was the opposition. It crossed the floor. I think the last man who was left screaming and kicking was Joseph Martin Shikuku. And I remember at that time, from the reading I have done, there wasn't a lot of noise about the democratic character of crossing the floor. But in '66, when KPU was formed and KPU crossed the floor, the very erudite Joseph Thomas Mboya was very critical. He was saying to cross the floor is to lose the mandate of the party that elected you. Now, and I have a sympathy. Yes, please. I have sympathy for that. I think that we should have in law mechanisms of containing persons to the parties to the parties on whose platform they were elected. So that's my opinion on that. Now, what is the last issue?
It's not clear, sorry. Yeah. Just make it clear. What is your position on that?
My position is that if I presented myself to the people of Kamukunji as a member of the Kenya African National Union, and I was elected as such, I should be obligated, if I am to continue for the 5 years, to retain fidelity to that party, the party on whose platform I was elected. If I crossed the floor, and became, in fact, and voted with and became associated with the Kenya African Democratic Union, then I should vacate my seat and a by-election should be held. That's my opinion. It is not a popular opinion, I know, among politicians. However, you told me to come and talk about my opinion. Let me now tell you an even more unpopular, let me give you a more unpopular view, and it is my last one. I do not believe, as a constitutional lawyer and historian, that there is any justification for any fund. There is no justification for the Constituency Development Fund. There is no justification for Affirmative Action Fund, and there is no justification for Senate Override Fund. We have one government at two levels. We have a national government. The fund of the national government is in the Treasury. It is kept by the National Cabinet Secretary to the Treasury. The second fund is the governor, is in the county. It is kept by the governor. Any other fund has no place in our constitutional architecture. There should be only money in two levels, the national level and at the county level. Let me tell you why I have another difficulty with this. I have another difficulty with our members of parliament, our honorable members of parliament, becoming both the appropriators of fund, debating the budget, appropriating cash, then following the cash themselves, yes, and spending the cash. I think it blurs the roles, because the work of parliament is to tax and to spend, then to oversight, right? So I don't feel very comfortable when the member of parliament has fought very hard for money to go to Kiambu County. Then before it arrives, it finds him sitting in the constituency. So that is a personal view, but one that I hold very strongly. I would like to see my senator and my member of parliament oversighting, calling, and I have seen the Senate, for example, is very, very, very robust on this role, and I think that's the correct role. Says to the governor, this is the report we have received, tell us how you spent this money. If the senator was down there himself spending some money, I think the ability to ask another spender how he spent might be compromised. So unfortunately, I don't support that. Now, finally, do I oppose the setting up of the office of leader of the official opposition? No, I don't oppose at all. Actually, I think it makes politics neater